someone walked by me the other day, someone in the building, like, hey, you're ready for this. And this is my perspective. You're never ready until you do it.
Chase Claypool keeps making plays.
He does. All right, welcome back to the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel presented by Connors and Ferris, Dan Fates. I am Jenna Cottrell. We're here in Orchard Park. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
You thought we weren't going to do it. You thought wrong.
I thought I wasn't going to do it.
You thought wrong.
I looked at you and your eyes were getting very wide,
Yeah.
and I was like, I already messed up. All right, we're here.
Beautiful day.
Beautiful day outside, truly.
Almost too hot.
Yeah, but we're not going to say that.
No.
We're not going to say that. We're going to say it's a beautiful day. But we're
It is a
inside
beautiful day.
because a little bit of shade is very helpful for us when
Yes.
we do the camera stuff. So, all right, let's talk about it. Bills OTAs, this is week 3.
Yeah.
What were your initial impressions? We're going to talk, one about Bobby Babich.
We're starting to talk Babich. We can talk about Von Miller.
Yeah.
We could talk about Ed Oliver. Touch on a little bit of Gable Steveson. He was there at practice today that we got to see. And but before that, if we are going to break down an OTA practice, which we have said before, it is
Take this with a grain of salt. Observations from the day.
offense stunk.
It was a tough day in terms of offensively what we saw. A lot of penalties.
Yeah, no Deion Dawkins. He was not here today.
Yes.
There are a couple other guys missing, splattered here and out. Offensive line, big issue. False start penalties. The first team offense got kicked out a couple times. Second team offense also had false start issues. I'll spin it this way. Defense dominated the day. They were phenomenal. So if there is a grain of salt, you can look and say Bobby Babich and the defense won the day.
And we got to talk to Bobby Babich
Yeah.
today, which is interesting just because I feel like we really haven't had the opportunity that much
Yeah.
to speak with him. So Babich, for the backstory, obviously he's been with the Bills since 2017. He was an assistant, defensive back assistant. He worked with the linebackers as well. Now he's the Bills defensive coordinator. And I personally, I found it really interesting listening to him. I feel like he wasn't as smooth talking maybe as a Joe Brady would be. But to me, Babich put a lot of thought into what he was saying. And I think he really wanted to make sure he made the right impression today. And I think he did a good job of that.
I loved the juice. He's another guy that you'll hear they talk about, brings a lot of juice, a lot
Yeah.
of energy, talks with his hands a lot. He's
Which that
very-
is welcome here.
Yes. Mike knows that very well. He has to put his hands behind himself so that he doesn't interrupt us. I think Babich has a lot of perspective, especially on the journey that he's taken. He is the son of a coaching father.
Of Bob Babich.
Of Bob Babich, who did the whole coaching. Mike and I looked it up the one time. If you have a second, look up Bob Babich's coaching journey.
Wow.
The amount of miles he's traveled, the places that he has been, the jobs that he has had, the colleges, parts of the country, insane. And Bobby grew up in that. So to see him, he talked about his parents coming to practice last week, and he said they come up to see the grandkids. They don't care about me anymore. But at the end, he said his dad did give him a note card with 3 notes on it. So there is still that. He goes, he's a support system.
Yeah, he's not overbearing, but
Yes.
he took notes, which honestly, I love that.
And I also thought it was interesting that he talks about how he says it's still surreal, that he's
Yeah.
been here for 8 years. This is something that he really wanted to do and stay here and work with Sean. And this is that he had 2 other interviews, but that he was fortunate that it all worked out here. He talked about that, I don't know, that fire, that intensity, that fresh eyes. Again, that
Yes.
I really enjoyed.
Yeah, and he talked about what this opportunity in terms of what it means to be here
Yep.
and to stay here. And you talked about that past of him traveling or his family traveling
Yep.
a lot, the stability and what that means. We've seen him also exceed at what he does
Yep.
in terms of the player. I mean, I think of Terrell Bernard other than Dan, but like no one was expecting Terrell Bernard to be the starting middle linebacker.
Yeah.
To be, I mean, no one expected him to have the caliber of play that he did last year.
Yep.
But he was asked. The final question was, he's never called plays before, and it's not set in stone who will be calling plays for this Bills defense yet.
Sean says to ask him midway through training camp. We
So,
have asked Sean McDermott
you're
at
putting
every single point we can.
Yes.
Sean says to wait until middle of training camp.
But Babich was asked, you have never called plays before. Are you ready for the opportunity? Here's what he said.
It's funny. So I have a different perspective on this, and whether it's play calling or something new, just in general in this job, right? Just in general in this job. someone walked by me the other day, someone in the building, like, hey, you're ready for this. And this is my perspective. You're never ready until you do it. So to answer your question, I've prepared myself for, I think I've been in this league 12 or 13 years. You're constantly trying to prepare yourself for when you get into this position. But until you actually do something, you are never ready. So I don't have the ego to sit up here and say, I'm ready, this, that, and the other. I'm vulnerable enough to say that I'm as prepared as I can possibly be, and I'm going to continue to learn every day, every part of this process. I'm going to continue to learn. I'm going to make mistakes at whatever that is that this job entails. It's going to happen, just like players make mistakes. And like anybody new at a position makes mistakes. That's going to happen. But I'm as prepared as I can possibly be. I've got a great mentor upstairs who I've been with for a multitude of years, who I can lean on. And I'm really, really, really excited for this opportunity. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to help this team win a Super Bowl. And that's it. End of story. That's been the way I've gone about things. And that's the way I want to go about it. Well, I just want to be part of something special here in Buffalo.
Absolutely love that answer.
I loved that answer because he's right. You can, what's the Mike Tyson? Everyone's prepared until they get punched in the face.
Everybody's got a plan to get punched in the face.
I like that he said, like, look, mistakes will happen because I think that is important. But I have a ton of confidence in him because of the track record that he has shown. And again, it's early. We'll see what happens.
Yep.
But I feel like he has the respect of those guys, and also he has a mentor like Sean McDermott.
Yeah.
And you can, if you don't like Sean McDermott as a head coach, that's your own prerogative. But you cannot deny defensively what he means to this team and the asset that has been.
Yeah, two things that stand out to me about Bobby Babich is that he played defensive back at North Dakota State. That's his passion. He said he has a passion for coaching and football. He knows more about defensive backs. He knows more about the secondary. Then he got asked to be the linebacker coach, and he said, I don't really know what I'm doing. He pretty much admitted that, but he said that's when he poured into learning more about the position, how to handle it, reached out to more people.
Yeah.
And guess what? Bernard and Milano are pretty damn good at their position.
Yeah.
And that's a testament to Bobby's ability to adapt.
Bernard. Well, I think Milano already.
Sure, but he didn't fall off a cliff.
No, I agree.
I would even say Terrell Dodson played well in spots.
Better than expected. I think we all could say that. I think that's where the mark to me is of him having the ability to really coach guys up. Matt Milano's a fantastic player. I think he would be good with me as his linebackers coach. But to see the progression from Terrell Bernard as well as Tyrell Dodson, I think that is that speaks to what he's able to do.
And the other thing that stands out is you talk about the mentorship with Sean McDermott. He said he's known him going back to the Philly days, like in where he's kind of come up from and all those things. And guess what? And you're right. I love the point that he pointed out. I'm going to fail. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to stumble. So did Sean McDermott. Sean's been fired from jobs. Like, Sean has had those learning curves. And we talked about in the last podcast that we released yesterday. I like that Joe Brady has failed as an OC and a play caller, and that he's learned from that to be better around. I love the fact that Babich is understanding and realistic to there's going to be a learning curve. I am going to prepare myself the best that I can be, but I'm still going to learn things on the fly. The one thing that I instantly thought of was being a parent. When people say, when are you ready to be a parent?
I asked you this.
Yeah. You're never ready. You're not ready to have one kid, and once you have one kid, you're not ready to have a second kid.
Yeah.
You're not ready until you go through it, and that's how you learn. So I love that perspective of Babich.
I think that is really important. Now, obviously, Bills fans are saying in the comments now, like, we don't want him to fail, though, which no one wants that if you're a Bills fan. But
there
I think
will be a game where they give up 28 points.
I was going to say, it is realistic to think that there's going to be bumps along the road, but I feel like the lessons learned, and also we talked about McDermott, though, but having a defensive mind like him. I think it's great because you have McDermott's experience and you have Babich's fresh eyes.
I agree.
And I think they both have so much to offer that it really bodes well in terms of what I expect. And look, the defense of this team has done very well for the most part over the seasons.
Other points, we also talked to Von Miller today. I think the one thing that really stood out to me was asked about his health. continuing on the defensive path.
Yeah, absolutely.
He said he feels great so far.
I think people are happy, though we won't talk wide receiver for one moment.
Well, we will. We will. I have two things on the wide receivers. He said he's been practicing without a knee brace, which is something he could never do last season. So there hopes to be, again, saw flashes in Pittsburgh. You saw flashes in Kansas City the last 2 games of the year. Von's is, again, how long it takes. Von says that he believes he can still do it. He's got to keep pushing. He believes he has a few more years left in him.
Wow.
The Bills really need a few more years out of him.
Oh, yeah. I'm curious to see how that will be when, obviously, the knee brace not being on is huge, and that is a huge piece of progress, but the Bills need him to be better. He knows that, obviously.
He needs to be Von Miller.
He needs to be Von Miller.
Yep.
Paid him a lot of money.
The guy next to him working out is Gable Steveson. We've talked about him. We got to see him today. He was actually spending about 20 minutes after practice working with Sean McDermott on wrestling moves out there on the practice field.
That's hilarious.
Wrestling moves that obviously the grappling, the leverage, the footwork that can all translate to the field. He's got a locker right next to Von Miller. The two, they said, he instantly called him up and said, I'm going to be attached to your hip. Like, you're going to learn. I want to learn from you. Ed Oliver talked about him and just the fact of he's the best in the world at his craft.
It's pretty
and then he goes,
impressive.
if we win the
Really
Super Bowl, he goes, we can say we're the best in the world. He goes, we don't really know that. Like, if another team in another country, we wouldn't say that. He's the best in the world. And he also talked about the mindset that he's already talked to with Gable. And he goes, we go to war with 11 guys. He goes to war by himself. And what it takes to do that. So those are another instances of getting guys in the room, letting them assimilate, learning from them, picking their brains, I think is very interesting.
What did Von say, too? He said something about when Gable...
Oh, yeah, he's next to me, he's like, oh, I went to go grapple with him. He's different. You're like, yeah, no shit.
Yeah. It will be a project, but to hear guys like that speak about that, it's like, okay.
Says he's got all the athletic ability in the world.
Yeah.
How does that translate? Ed said, like, don't put an expectation. He's still learning football.
Yeah.
Like, some things should translate, but he's like, let's not put this unrealistic expectation on him. Von said the same thing. He has all the athletic ability that you could ask for.
There's so much processing. I mean, yes, man whooping another man on defensive line, but there is a lot of processing that goes into football, which actually brings me to when I talked today to Travis Clayton, who's a part of the International Pathways program. Just an accent in general. He's from England. Like, he's learning the game as well, and his talk about going up against some of those guys on the defensive side of the ball and just like how powerful they are, like just what it has been like. I think that is something that we kind of forget. We're like, oh, why didn't they do, like, everything happens so fast. So fast. I have that sit down interview. I'm going to do a story with Travis Clayton, but like, I just think sometimes we take it for granted of like, this is the part of the season where there is so much teaching and so much learning. This is the time for that.
Yeah. Travis Clayton stands out. Just standing. Like he's just a tall person.
Yes.
I'll say this. Gable didn't stand out.
Well, he stood out in the other way. I was like, who is that?
That's how much, obviously Gable's a freak athlete. The Bills' NFL defensive lines are freak athletes.
Yeah.
It is crazy to sit there and say he's the best at his weight in the entire world, and he still looks small next to a guy like Daquan Jones and some of these guys. Insane.
It is real, though. That is real. All right, let's talk about
offense.
That's what I was going to go there. Mitch Trubisky with the throw, but Chase Claypool, that was a nice progression to see from the Bills' offense.
Chase Claypool keeps making plays.
He does.
Look, I think we all had limited expectations. Some maybe in the comments had higher ones. He had a big play, his week 1 catch over Jamarcus Ingram. I also heard that he had a great catch yesterday when the media wasn't here in double coverage from Mitch Trubisky. He caught another deep ball this time. He's making plays. And it is, especially when today there were not a whole lot of offensive highlights. He was the one offensive highlight.
And you mentioned Mitch Trubisky throwing him the ball. Today after practice, we were in the field house, and Josh Allen and Chase...
30 minutes?
30 minutes, Josh Allen throwing to Chase Claypool.
They were going through sensors, camera works. They were working on everything. Like, it was not a good day for Josh Allen and this Bills offense. Damar Hamlin tipped a pass that was intercepted by Deion Jones. There was a pass that
I thought it
Kaiir
was
Elam.
Damar that tipped it.
Damar tipped it.
Oh,
Deion
okay.
Jones picked it.
Sorry.
And then there was Kaiir Elam had an interception that he dropped, but it was clunky. Again, we sometimes break down training camp, who wins the day, who loses the day. I'm not going to say that here. I'm just letting you know that it was not a clean day. And I think the fact that Josh came in here and threw for another 30 minutes wasn't a coincidence that today was the day that he was going to go through this. I think he didn't like his performance.
Irritated, yeah.
And came out here to throw with Chase.
I took it more as that, and also they're progressing. I feel like I keep using the word progression, so I
always say
apologize.
it's interesting.
They have a lot of crutch phrases, so I apologize.
And they all commented.
Yeah, I know, but like, you know, when you're having a conversation, you don't realize.
Yeah.
That aside, I also took it as, okay, Chase, you've made some plays.
Yep.
Now we're going to have Josh throw you the ball, and we're going to get acclimated with that aspect. So I hear what you're saying. I think Josh was probably
a good point.
pretty annoyed, but I also think it's, Chase, you've made the plays, because this is them building him up.
Yep.
Like, what are you going to be? You had all the expectations in the world, all the talent in the world. Obviously, throughout his career, Chase Claypool, there have been issues there. So it's like, you're going to have to earn that trust to be able to take the next step.
Yep.
And I think that was a piece of that.
One last thing we'll say before we wrap up. If you made it this far in the video, thank you. Like, comment,
appreciate it.
subscribe. Appreciate it. Keon Coleman continues to look smooth to me. He's another guy that I remember when we first saw Khalil Shakir and how smooth and confident he felt with his hands. Keon looks very comfortable catching a football.
Yeah.
And that's something I know. I don't believe he had a drop his last year at Florida State. He just looks very comfortable catching the ball with his hands.
He doesn't look like a rookie to me.
No.
Yeah.
It's very encouraging. He feels like he fits in. And again, it's just very smooth with him. Josh was off on a couple passes to Curtis Samuel, as well as the guy that wears no shoes.
Matt Collins.
Thank you.
There's a
Doesn't wear
lot of new faces out there. Like, the roster cards that they give you, you're like, I really need to study who
Yeah.
these guys are, because so many new faces.
All right.
Yeah, Curtis Samuel did have a nice catch, though.
Oh, the sideline diving
sideline.
down?
Yeah,
Yep.
that was a nice catch.
Yeah.
But getting on the same page with that. And this is also one final note.
MVS looks smooth too.
I get nervous with the drops, but
I know.
he looked good today. This important note, usually throughout training camp, like, the defense is ahead of
Absolutely.
the offense.
Absolutely.
So it's not surprising, although
Yes.
albeit it's not like, oh, amazing.
Yep.
All right, we're gonna wrap up here. For Dan Fates, I'm Jenna Cottrell. Please
Go watch yesterday's podcast if you didn't.
Yes,
This video will be out Wednesday. We're recording it Tuesday.
Tuesday, Wednesday. We're trying to space out some stuff.
Like-
Like, comment, subscribe, share. What? You scared me. Oh my gosh, you're scared. Should I do that again? Like, comment, subscribe.